Hi, everybody. Oh, that BGM is very low. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I've been adjusting my levels, getting ready for stream. Hello. For anyone who does not know who I am, my name is Luminous Peak, and I am your illustrious but benevolent, friendly neighborhood Fae-tuber. Here on sabbatical, studying all the cool things that you humans do. Oh, hello! Hi, Arbor Cat. Nice to see you again. And hello, 180. Oh, what is my model doing? I think I might have to refresh it. 1 second. Yep. Alrighty. There we go. Should be good now. Yeah, I'm moving and everything. Oh gosh, I'm moving so violently. Why am I shaking? Hang on. I have a feeling that when I updated things yesterday, some other things went awry. Sometimes Windows likes to do funny things. All right, I think we got it. I think we got it. There we go. There we go. Welcome back. So sad I missed your one the other day. It was yesterday. It was yesterday. It wasn't that long ago. You're here today, and that's what matters, right? So, first of all, I want to ask, how are you guys doing? I ended up being a couple minutes late to stream just because. Have you ever been in a situation where you go to make tea and you want honey for your tea, so you go to do that, but the last person who used a bottle of honey definitely spilled it all over the bottle? So you go to pick it up and suddenly there's honey all over your hands. That is approximately what happened to me. Was that yesterday? I just knew I woke up and had missed one recently. Yes, it was yesterday. It was so frustrating. I was like, ah, man, I literally just started stream. What is happening? You know what would be cool if we weren't here fiddling around with this craziness? Alrighty. So, for anyone who hasn't been to a bedtime story stream before, the rules are simple. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, we're just going to pick some random stories from the Wanderer's Library. If you'd like the link to the library, you should be able to get it from hitting ! today. That should get you where you need to go. I am going to keep a running list of the things that we're reading. I think I gotta move it around. Yeah, it's a little high, a little covering chat, you know. We're gonna list them. We're gonna list them here. Maybe yeah, so it's not like quite all the way in the way. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Wanderer's Library is actually a real thing. This is not a made-up thing that's in my bio or in my profile. Basically, it's a cool archive of really creative supernatural and fantasy stories. If you've ever read or heard of SCP Foundation, which does like the, not like scary, but sometimes scary, interesting supernatural creatures that are being contained by the Foundation. This is a sister website that does more kind of like fantastical stuff. First rule of the Lumi stream, don't talk about the Lumi stream. Exactly. I actually almost made that joke, but I know literally everyone has heard it. Literally everyone has heard it. No one wants to hear that joke again. Except 180 apparently. So just to get the most asked questions out of the way, these stories are all released under common license. So we are allowed to read them and post them as long as we give credit. I used to do sort of like end of the stream tweets where I listed out all the stories in case people wanted to look them up again. But at this point, I've just started listing them in stream, especially because I put the VODs up on my YouTubes, on the YouTubes. So normally what I'll do is I'll generate a list of stories. We'll kind of like read out which ones sound interesting. And if chat feels any way about it, they'll pick one. If no one feels any particular way about it, I'll just kind of go through a bunch. What's really cool about the site is they actually have a sort of like a random book button that you can hit on the site. And it'll actually generate like a bunch of book spines with like the different fic names and authors on them. It's actually pretty dope. This is gonna be a pretty short stream, probably more than an hour. We're like 12-ish minutes in. But I did want to give some people a taste. I miss doing these streams. I actually really love these streams. Oh my gosh, the BGM. I'm fighting with it. I'm fighting. Okay, hopefully the BGM's not too loud. It won't be going for much longer, but I felt like I was drowning in it for a second. These streams have missed doing you or something. I could only be lucky to have these streams missing doing me. 180, I miss your humor. Okay. So, I don't want to really tinker with anything too much longer. I want to make sure that we've got that list in a place where it actually can be seen. I think I'm going to move it just a little bit. I don't mind if it covers me a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. If I guess if I'm picky, I could move it down just a little bit. Boom. There we go. Fine enough. Ooh, woo. Yes, I do in fact love the woos. Alrighty. I am wide awake, if you couldn't tell, which is absolutely ridiculous. Perhaps not the best mood to open things up with. Oh, 180. Oh, feeling less nervous? I feel a little less nervous. Only a little. You know, getting back on the horse. You remember how, but you feel more self-conscious about the small mistakes. You know, like there's always scuff, right? Stream always has scuff. But when you haven't been here for a long time, it feels like everything's all your fault. It feels like everything is all your fault, basically. Yeah, I was super nervous. I was. But yesterday was really nice. I appreciated you stopping by, everyone else stopping by. I got rated by a couple of VTubing friends that I've made. Everyone was very nice, very kind. Had me just playing in the background while I was doing stuff. Karisu showed up. It was nice. It was a nice event. It was nice. The scuff just makes it better. You know, in some ways, yeah. So obviously, you weren't there, but I thought that you had like commented something about wanting to be there like afterwards or something. Maybe I'm mixing up people from the Discord. I think I might be mixing up commentary from the Discord. But yeah, as somebody that watches streams, it never bothers me when anyone else has difficulties ever. Like if other people need to just like, you know, figure things out. Oh, you did just not. It's all running together today and yesterday. Yeah, so like whenever anyone else makes any mistakes, it literally does not matter to me. I'm like, hey, take your time, get your stream together. I'm here because I enjoy your voice. I enjoy what we're doing. It's giving me motivation to do work in the background. But it's never like that in your own head, right? That's always how it goes. You start doing things and saying things, and then you're just like, oh man, everybody's gonna hate when I do it. They're gonna hate when I do it. And I know it doesn't work like that, but it feels like it does, you know? It feels like it does. But all right, enough yammering from me, We've done the preamble. I will remind everyone there are cute commands if you would like to explore the library. Hit that exclamation point, explore. Tea recommendations. I am drinking tea between stories so that I can keep my throat and voice lubricated. And there's a bunch of other fun goodies. The exclamation point explore command is actually based on loosely the lore from the actual library. So there's, I think, a command for the librarians to see who you run into, and there's a couple of different options there. There's some fun stuff there for you if you want to bother. Yeah, I get what you mean. It bothers you more than anyone else most of the time. 100% of the time. 100% of the time. And I'm usually pretty confident, except when I'm presenting to people. If I'm presenting to people, then like my confidence goes right to the shitter, right absolutely there. Shalakard, oh my god. Managed to sneak in the word lubricated even when we're not doing keep stuff. I knew you would appreciate my effort. I knew you would see it. Shalu, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Well, that's not true. I lurked in one of your streams recently, actually. I fell asleep watching you and didn't get a chance to say hello. But okay, we are gonna cut our theme music here. Oop. I've got some white noise that we're gonna play in the background here. Hopefully you guys can hear it. I don't like it when people read in complete silence. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want the reading to take place in complete silence, but I do want there to be some noise in there. So we got our white noise here. I'm adjusting it. Let me know if it's too loud. Ah, Dead King! Dead King redeemed first! Congrats, go for the gold. No one redeemed anything until like the end of stream yesterday. So I'm glad you guys remembered. I'm not giving hints though. I'm not telling you guys. You gotta do it on your own. Congrats on second 180. Silver's lovely. I actually like silver more than gold, but gold is first place. It is what it is, you know. All right, here we go. I am actually on the website now. Just for posterity, I'm gonna hit the today command. Fingers crossed that I updated the correct one. I found out yesterday that the reason why my today command wasn't updated is because I accidentally clicked the command beneath it. It had the information there instead of in the today command. So if you hit exclamation point Twitter yesterday, you would have gotten the build information. Crazy. Anyway, duty calls will be lurking. Cool, cool. Lurk away, lurk away. Sit back, relax, get some tea, get you a snack. Get your work going. That's what this is for. If you just need something in the background or you're trying to get to sleep, we're just going to be reading a couple things. So here we go. Let's hit the random stories button and see what we get. All right. So we got elemental typology. I'm just going to read I'll read maybe like 5 of these at a time and we'll pick from there. We have elemental typology. Pathway and corridor, a note to my muse, those places where maps cannot touch, the throne of the usurper, self-portrait songs, which are songs about being transgender. They put that in the title so that people know. That's actually very considerate. On sea pigeons, and then we have stuck, very ominous. And then we have Ambrose Wanderer's Library of Review, which might be interesting. I actually recognize some of these authors from content that we usually have, that we usually read. Actually, let me see whether or not I can get something going where we can look at the preview for what's in the random column. Let's see if I can get that going. We'll see. We'll see. Window capture. And I'll name it library. Let's see if I can do it. I should have done this before stream. Let's see. Yeah, I definitely should have. Oh, wow. That's big. All right. That's super big. Let's, maybe. Sheesh. Can we, like, set this to fit to screen? Jesus. Yeah, exactly. I was like, what the heck is going on, man? Let's see. That's, like, way too small for you guys to actually see. Let's see if I can. Yeah, that's what I want, basically. Yeah, that's like much better. Let's see if I can scroll down just a little bit. Sorry, guys. I definitely should have done it before stream. But the scuff, we love the scuff. And then I can scroll up and down. Okay, cool. So this is what we have to choose from. Let's see if I can get this window just a little tighter in there. Yeah, we sure can. We're gonna do it. Great. Sorry, I'm usually not quite this messy when it comes to streaming. I just haven't done this for a while. So here we go. I'm gonna make this a little smaller than chat. So it's right here. The stack is here. We can see the stack. All right, so I'm thinking to start. I'm considering the Wanderer's Library a review, actually. Does it swap? It does actually swap. No. Can I open this up as a new window? I sure can. Perfection. Perfection. All right. You want a spooky story? Let's look and see which ones might be spooky. Throne of the Usurper. I feel like we might have read that in a previous... I need to keep a big, like a super huge list. Let me see. I have a feeling that we read that, though. We have not actually read that. It is very short. It's not scary looking, though. It looks ominous. It doesn't look scary. Let's see. We have those places where maps cannot touch. We have It Sees Me. It Sees Me might be a little scary. Let me open it up and see what's here. This looks like kind of creepy. I think we can probably work with that. We might be able to work with that. I can also re-roll these, of course, and try to get a different set of stories. I think if I refresh these, they'll give me different ones, so we can see. We'll see. There's also Chest Cavity, the Star. That seems like it might be interesting. So let's see. There's a couple of ones here. Usually I run these like super random. Did it just, oh my gosh. Not OBS being finicky. It doesn't want to show it up unless I keep the window up. I see. All right. So I do want to start with the Wanderer's Library review. I just feel like it fits since a lot of people are here for the first time. And then we'll try to find something. We'll try to find something a little scary. All right. So we'll start with We have come for the sleepies. Great. I was literally just about to start reading. Oh my gosh. Vesper, it's always nice to see you. I literally was just watching you about 30 minutes ago before stream. Thank you for the raid. For anyone who has never been to my streams, hello, my name is Luminous Peak. I am your friendly neighborhood fae here on Earth on sabbatical, learning about all the cool things you humans do. We're doing bedtime stories tonight. That is what we are doing. So this is pretty good if you just want something to play in the background. Don't worry about, you don't have to chat a whole lot. It's basically just for anybody who's up, anyone who enjoys tasty stories. We are reading from the Wanderer's Library, which is basically a Creative Commons archive of fantastical and supernatural stories. It is available online for free for literally anyone to look and read. If you enjoy SCP content, then this basically is the place to go. It's a sister website. I'll go ahead and hit the today command so you guys can have the link if you want it. In the lower left here, we've got the list of books I randomly generated because, of course, they have a choose things at random sort of thing. And the first thing we're reading tonight is Ambrose Wanderer's Library, a review. Just because it seemed like it fit, honestly. It looks like the review is 2 out of 5 stars, so now I'm wondering why. So here we go. 1 year ago, rumors started circulating between wanderers that a new restaurant was opening somewhere in the library. Under normal circumstances, this would hardly be news. The library is no stranger to small entrepreneurships providing food, drink, and other kinds of nutrition to its countless visitors, especially those who have made this place their permanent residence. I'm only here for vacation. I just want to add that. Like me specifically, I'm here only for vacation. I'm not permanently living here. This time, however, the rumors were not about a small cafe or a bistro or even a pub. The words high-end restaurant spread like wildfire amongst the shelves, and a direct statement from the chief archivist himself finally confirmed it all. It was true. Ambrose Restaurants was opening an establishment at the Wanderer's Library. If you are neither an earthling nor a fan of fine dining, you'd be forgiven for never having heard of Ambrose Restaurants or its owner, Chaz Ambrose. However many iterations or variants of planet Earth there may be, there are but tiny blue specks in the endlessness of their own universes, many of them limited by the permanence of the Veil and the SCP Foundation. However, connoisseurs like yours truly were elevated to hear that the renowned restaurant chain had finally gone multiversal. A place like the Wanderer's Library is meant to be a sanctuary for all kinds of knowledge and culture. And what is cuisine if not a reflection of the ones who have created it? Food is the basis of all life of planets, the culture of a people and their history made manifest through flavor. I want to pause here to just say this was written really well. Food is the basis of most all life of planets, the culture of a people and their history made manifest through flavor. That magnificent line. Actually really like that. Also, before we resume, I do want to point out that Ambrose and one of his restaurants is actually an SCP that you can read about. This is kind of spoiler territory. I mean, not really. Like, they kind of explain it very forward in the article. But Ambrose actually is a mysterious supernatural figure who's been alive for thousands of years, and no one actually knows how he's done this. In the article that I read specifically, he runs a restaurant slash, I guess, entertainment facility specifically for vampires. Like, specifically for vampires. He participates basically in all of the sport that he wants his customers to participate in, but he's not affected by any of the things that vampires are affected by. So you're kind of left with this weird sense at the end that's, you're like, so is he a vampire or not? Is he just a weird dude that's like drinking the blood of like random people? It's actually a hilarious article. But this is referencing him. So the person who's gonna found this restaurant in the library is this guy. Very interesting, very entertaining. All right, back in we go. However, as excitement spread, so did a quiet surge of backlash. There were some wanderers among our numbers who remained skeptical about this new addition to the library's culinary roster. Not a few controversies have arisen against Ambrose restaurants, from the treatment of their employees to the sourcing of their ingredients. Some have even accused Chas Ambrose of cultural appropriation, claiming that his dishes are not creative innovations on pre-existing recipes, but rather shameless bastardizations that ignore the soul and history of the food for the sake of trendiness and exoticization. Regardless of the rumors, over the course of a year, the news did not leave anyone's mouth, especially when construction began on the rafters and invitations were delivered to a select group of wanderers and organizations, including this reporter's employer, the Plantastical, for a time and location 2 months ahead, the ribbon cutting of the restaurant, and to be the first few to dine in the library's newest fine dining establishment. Tonight, after a long wait and countless discussions about the supposed gentrification of the library, the doors of Ambrose Wanderer's Library finally opened an invitation of we privileged few. Privileged few may not be the best word to describe us, really. The few described on the invitations delivered to the the Plantastical office did not mention the sheer amount of people who would be joining us, and the restaurant was packed to capacity. All around me, notable wanderers and celebrity guests milled, chattered, clicked, and sang. I recognized some and did not recognize far more, though they obviously knew each other. From explorers and writers to dignitaries from across the multiverse, it felt like everyone was here, glowing and floating in clouds, sitting and conversing, and quiet gesticulations, and so much more. Even a few gods showed up to witness us popping into existence mere instants before the moment we had been waiting for. Heads turned, theatrical music played over well-timbered speakers hidden in the freshly stained woodwork panels, and the man himself, Chas Ambrose, cut the golden ribbon that signaled the grand opening of his most ambitious business venture yet. We all boarded the lift that would take us to the rafters, a smooth, shining platform of exotic stained wood and incut emerald veins that lowered smoothly to rest on the polished floor of the library. The lift was trimmed, curtained, and contained multiple cushioned chairs. Despite the number of guests, we found no trouble accommodating ourselves. There was plenty of room for crowds. I, alongside several others, eased myself into a plush seat, and the lift began its smooth ascent into the rafters. The view was magnificent, and a din of conversation spread across the lift like fog. Meanwhile, I, at my seat with some of the other, quieter reviewers, thought on the logistics of the restaurant and of today's guest's pedigree. There are infinite Transylvanias. There are infinite backdoor Sohos. Hell, there are infinite Chas Ambroses. However, to the best of our knowledge, and of all the knowledge repositoried in the shelves, there is only one Wanderer's Library. A business making it to the library means making it big and paving a gateway to infinite realities and infinite customers. For someone like Chas Ambrose, opening an establishment here was a titanic achievement, one that should be announced to anyone who cared to hear about it. That, I figured, was likely where we reviewers and first customers came in, particularly the press. No doubt we were the ones counted on to spread the word to every branch, twig, and root of the world tree. I want to pause here again, just really quick, to I love that there are works in the library that are definitely very meta about the library. This is obviously one of them. It's referring to the library itself and the books in it. The website itself is not just like an archive. Like it's not like Archive of Our Own, right? AO3, where you just have like stories on stories on stories, and you can look up users, you can look up the stories. The Wanderer's Library is a sandbox where the stories you write become part of the meta of the story of the website altogether. That's why everything's under Creative Commons and people are free to read things and like perform them, and you can submit your own stories and things like that. There are quite a few stories that actually refer to the library in and of itself. And the stories that you write are supposed to take into account that this is like a real place, obviously. And I just wanted to point out, because there are quite a few people here who have not been to bedtime streams before, we have come across a few stories that reference the library in this way. And it's just always great to get like a description of all the different types of people and things that exist in a library, myself included. Points at self. So this is actually wonderful to read. All right, back into the adventure we go. One thick set of wooden doors later. Oh, actually, I skipped a paragraph. Hang on, let me rewind a bit. My musings were cut short as the lift slid to a smooth stop at the edge of a gilt platform at the base of the rafters, where we proceeded through a short but lovely exterior garden. Our excitement was such that my chest felt light and giddy, the aromatic flowers and exotic climbing vines of the rafter gardens, making full use of the relatively low ceiling and unique architecture, enhanced that. And I had not been so excited for the food, and had I not been so excited for the food, I would have loved to stay and enjoy the garden a little while longer. But alas, that was not the case. One thick set of heavy wooden doors later, and we were inside. The lights were out, and in the warm dark we stood, and the door shut behind us, enveloping us in a warm dark that smelled of spices. The anticipation was palpable, and one short moment later, likely for theatrics, the lights came on. It was beautiful. Let me express, dear reader, the nature of the restaurant. Like our vehicle of ascent, the establishment was warm, friendly, and exquisitely textured for the delights of its visitors, a true luxury of the senses. A twin set of golden gates sat behind us, the doors we had come through, and linked solidly to the natural wood of the rafters above, crisscrossed in artful patterns from which hung softly glowing paper globe lanterns. Soft jazz entranced my ears, played by a small live symphony on a blue velvet-backed stage. The smell of strange, savory dishes wafted through the pleasantly warm air, and the elegant Art Deco style of the establishment, green and gold and black, delighted my wanderer's heart. We stood there for maybe 30 seconds taking it all in. My fellow reviewers standing stock still as I had been, watching the surroundings open-mouthed at the finery. Slowly, though, we thinned as servers appeared and led us to our tables. One such server took the members of the press, myself included, to a row of tables aligned to a ceiling-high window on the farthest wall of the restaurant. The glass was painted, stained, but without the thick lead borders so common in glasswork, and scenes of blue and purple lilacs over a shimmering, koi-filled lake, and under the hues of the restaurant lantern lights, the flowers looked like holograms. When I had taken my fill of the art and was seated at my table, close enough that the art tinted but did not obscure the view, I beheld it. It was spectacular. I had no idea that the rafters could produce such a sight. Beyond the sapphire-stained glass extended the shelves and the library's main hall, patrons looking as tiny as ants as they moved about their business, perhaps thinking the same of us up in the heights of the rafters. Flocks of Cromwells, wings paper-thin and fluttering like pigeons, soared just meters from our view, and as I watched, I think I even saw a school of lantern koi gracing us with their presence, perhaps thinking that our curiosity was for books, not food. My reverie at the uncommon view was pleasantly interrupted by a light tap on the shoulder as a server in white and blue handed me the menu. They drifted away before I could get a close look at their face, but I was not looking to them anyway, engrossed already in the menu. My lingering enjoyment of the view stayed with me and my expression was of curiosity as I scanned my options. Catering to an infinite multiverse full of infinitely distinct tastes, cultural nuances, dietary preferences, and biological capabilities is a task quite unlike any other, and I wish to see how Ambrose's Wanderer's Library tackled this challenge. This is why, though some of the dishes would no doubt have been appealing to me, I opted to select those which would encompass the greatest range of tastes. After all, if I only tried what I thought would be good, what would I really be reviewing? As a reviewer, my purpose is to serve as the eyes, ears, and tongue of the people. To my disappointment, as I read the menu, I quickly realized that most dishes, despite being made with highly diverse and exotic ingredients, were based on human recipes and culinary concepts, with little room for true exploration of other cultures and cuisines from across the multiverse. Not on this menu did I see a single non-tangible, non-taste dependent item. I have had such dishes before, the dream-sharing starflowers of the Seven Sisters being one of my favorites, but I could see nothing of the like here. While understandable given that most of the staff and the owner himself are of human descent, my hopes for the true multiversal dining had been dashed. However, the food did look appetizing. I decided that if diversity was off the menu, then I would dive headfirst into the heart of every Ambrose venue, the food's anomalous properties. I was to try a small portion of many things, and of those things, I would do my best to have as diverse an experience as possible. I set down my menu. My taste buds could not wait. The waiter returned, and I told them my wishes for the meal, then, on a whim, asked them of their recommendation for a dish to go alongside the one I wanted a pairing for. They told me of my options, suggested one in particular, and I expressed my interest. They nodded, and then they were off. The air smelled faintly of honeysuckle nectar from the kitchen, and idle conversation and soft, pleasant jazz made an ambiance that I could rest forever in. I stared out at the lilac-tinted window once more, and it felt like only seconds had passed before my server returned and my first meal at the Wanderer's Library branch of the Ambrose restaurants was served. I smelled the fire chili before it arrived. It smelled smoky, earthy, like water on searing cement on a summer day, mixed over the hot white ash of a campfire. The dish was brought to me in a crucible, something that resembled a lead core rather than a platter, which flaked molten foam from the outside. I leaned back and, through the radiant heat, I watched my server, equipped in silvery fireproof cloth garments, open my meal. They gestured for me to keep back from the dish while they opened it. I did. When the lid was cast off, I felt a gust of air so hot that I thought I was staring directly into a furnace. My eyes, dry as they are, felt scorched by the billowing wave of heat. The server, without prompting, took my forelegs and slid on a set of silver cloth gloves, and then indicated that my meal was ready to be eaten. The heat had lessened faintly, just enough to bear being near without catching fire. I nodded, and my server bustled off to another table. I was alone to enjoy my meal, which, given the lack of utensils, I ate with my hands. The first ruby red portion reached my mouth in a dramatic fashion, and the initial burning sensation and my accompanying cry of pain gave way to a far more pleasant sensation, all in a matter of seconds. The pain was almost like a deep massage, where it rose with agonizing severity, becoming so excruciatingly painful that my mind could only release endorphins to quench the pain. Despite the spiciness wrecking my mouth, I found myself in heart-racing enjoyment of my meal, and despite my shaking of forelimbs under the fireproof gloves making the grasping another cold difficult, I took another bite. It was so terribly beautiful, and incredibly, astoundingly, utterly delicious. Soon I found, alongside every bite where my tortured mind examined the method of my pain, my breaths too had caught fire. On each exhale, my mandibles exhaled gusts of plasmatic lightning, not forking and not jumping, but dripping like drool, rolling down my chin in a faux wet, glowing slurry of liquid plasma to drop on the table where it pooled before vanishing, charring the plate and giving off a scent of ionized vapor. Somewhere in my agonized mind, it hit me. The menu had said that the dish would give me the breath of a dragon. It had not specified which type. and then I was done. Thankfully, the effects of the meal subsided as quickly as they came. I thought that I would have been damaged from the heat, but my carapace was as clean and unmarred as ever. 2, my palate was untouched. I was clean and ready as ever for my next meal. Excited and with a fire in my belly that came not just from my meal of fire, I raised a limb signaling my waiter waiting across the room for my next dish. My choice for soup, abyssal pleasures, proved to be everything the menu boasted. With every spoonful, a sensation of oceanic dread creeped on my exoskeleton, the restaurant disappearing from view in brief glimpses of watery darkness, a heavy pressure building upon my thorax as I sank to the depths of the sea soup. Through the crushing darkness, I saw faint spots of luminescent blue, electric and tantalizing, but ever out of reach. It was the longing and intermingled terror, I think, that drove me to keep eating. Unlike the dish that had boiled my tongue, it kept me coming back for the intricacies of pain and pleasure. This one was like a well-written book. I could not stop eating, could not quench my desire just to catch one more glimpse of the sea, where everything was dark save for those still, quiet, starving leviathans that drifted as the size of clouds so far above my heavy head. Just as I was feeling full, being pulled to my body from the waking dream of the constraints of my biology, the dish was done. I scraped automatically at the clean, empty bowl for more, seeking that glorious and strange world once more, but there was none left. I had asked for small portions, I recalled faintly, so I could review all the more dishes that night. Now I regretted it. I inhaled. The dish had an aftertaste. The meaty, salty taste like kelp that came from the dish itself, paired with the subtle taste of the thalassophobic, terror-like adrenaline lingered in the back of my throat. Okay, we're pausing here just because this is a longer article than I thought it was going to be. We're like maybe a little more than halfway through. Maybe... Nah. We're like 2/3 of the way through. Wow. I just want to say, I like the reveal that the reviewer who wrote this is like a bug person. Like they have mandibles, a thorax, and everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thalassophobia, exactly. But I feel like this is the type of experience you will want from literally like a interdimensional library that has a restaurant in it. It would be super weird if you just had like regular food at this library, right? That would be super weird. Yeah. So it seems like the first dish literally gave him like dragon breath powers. He could actually breathe fire and it was burning him actually. And the second one gave him visions of the deep, which as a person who does magic, I'm into that. I'm into visions of the deep. I would like to stare at the leviathans. That seems pretty dope. I realize that that's very dangerously close to me also agreeing, thalassophobia. I feel like that would be pretty good to taste though. Like, what do phobias taste like? You know what I mean? It makes you think. It makes you think. If those intangible things had tastes, if there were beings that exist that can taste intangible things, you know, like what would they taste, right? Like how do they even experience taste, right? Is taste just like a vision to them like this? I think this stuff is always interesting. I love this kind of stuff. All right, last stretch. We're going to try to get through the rest of it. Alrighty. So far, so good. The element of surprise and the sheer quality of the meal had more than compensated for the lack of diversity. I was enjoying myself. I relaxed back in my seat, listening as one patron's dish sang a poem, while another spiked like ferrofluid with a magnet underneath on their plate. Jazz played softly, a different tune this time, but still as lovely as any I had ever heard, jaunting and lively. Spirits high, already thinking of what praise I would give Ambrose in my review, I signaled my waiter for the next dish. This, however, was where my experience took a nosedive. I had scarcely put my foreleg down before the main course was set before me, a steaming slab of glistening red meat, striated with rings of white fat, lay on a prickly, aromatic leaf before me, still simmering. A gentle sprinkling of what appeared to be fresh spices lay gently on the meat, the red of which appeared to move, almost like it were breathing as I watched. The idea of meat moving in the memory of the living, even long after being cooked, struck a matchstick of memory in my mind. But it would be long until I remember what it was. Without much thought, I took the first bite of my Leviathan fillet. It was scrumptious, but I will not, for reasons that I will now make very clear, go into detail about its quality. My enjoyment has been completely replaced by indignation and revulsion, and I must, for the sake of decency, refrain from giving any further phrase. When I asked the waiter about the dish's origin and preparation, I was informed that this was not some strange fish from the depths of a primordial ocean, but one of the spacefaring arthropods credited with seeding entire worlds with life. The shock almost made me spit out what meat was still in my mouth. I had unknowingly been feasting on one of the most precious species in existence, one that, to make matters worse, was sapient. I had been eating a person. The server attempted to calm me down, assuring me that all their meats were ethically sourced and that only deceased leviathans were harvested for their flesh and organs. I, however, had started looking around at what my peers had been served, and my shock and disgust only grew. Vesper, how rare do you want your meat? I needed to run into my mouth. Yes. Okay, back in we go. Close by, one of my fellow diners struggled to fit what looked like a live octopus down her throat. The poor creature squirmed and resisted, but was eventually swallowed whole. The eater's nauseated, horrified look told me all I needed to know, but I watched her gaze grow unfocused and relaxed, practically euphoric, like she were under the influence of some illicit narcotic, while the octopus slipped the rest of the way down her throat. Next to her, another man looked on in horror as his server roasted a small creature before his eyes, the sizzling meat failing to drown its cries. His cutlery sat untouched. As I reached once again for the menu, the realization ran me like a train. In my urgency to taste the culinary wonders of Ambrose Wanderer's library, I'd failed to notice that many of the dishes here were, in fact, live servings and not sourced for ethical consumption. Ambrose Restaurants, in attempting to make a multiversal culinary experience, has somehow decided to prepare still living and even sapient beings as high-end meals. This was not just some exotic or otherworldly selection of dishes or recipes, but a highly dubious, if not outright criminal list. Suffice it to say that I did not order dessert, although the server insisted that I at least enjoy one of their homemade drinks. In the end, to avoid making more of a scene, I accepted a pan-galactic gargle blaster, strong enough to allow me to stomach sitting in that place until it was time to leave, all the way down the lift and back to my home. I thought of the horrors that I had just witnessed, the commodification of cruelty, the ignorance of the suffering of others, a restaurant trying to dupe its customers into accepting vulgar and immoral dishes as a luxury. In retrospect, I think that those who voiced their concerns from the beginning have been vindicated. Chaz Ambrose's failure to see the issue in serving live creatures, desecrating a corpse, and trying to sell cruelty as culturally enriching and fashionable trumps any and all positive aspects of both the restaurant and the Ambrose brand as a whole. The quality of their food may be beyond fantastic, their service impeccable, and their ambiance fit for royalty, but none of these things matter in the face of ethics. While the multiverse is infinite and morality varies from world to world, there is one idea that we wanderers agree on. The needless torture of others in the name of novelty is abhorrent. This extends to what goes on behind Ambrose's gilded closed doors. I truly wish I could recommend Ambrose Wanderer's library to my readers, but I find such a thought to be as unpalatable as the practices behind their menu. Unless the menu and the practices behind the business change, no good can come from an establishment like this. Ambrose Restaurants is beautiful and magical, truly a wondrous place to patron. However, the establishment embellishes horrid practices and markets them to the public. As many of us know, glamour cannot turn a murder into a feast. What kind of people are we if we choose to patronize this restaurant still? So that's the end. That is the end of that story. Oh my gosh. I would like to note, for the sake of amusement, that at the bottom of this story is a list. It's basically like a fantasy Twitter. That has like people's responses to the review. Apparently, instead of like likes and retweets, they have echoes and hums, which I actually love. I think that that's fantastic. Let me see if I can actually pull this up, because like this is hilarious. Actually, before I put the name of this story up here, I actually want to see if I can actually get this done, because this is hilarious to me. Let's see. I'm gonna fit this to the window first, and then we'll see if I can actually. There we go. So this is just hilarious. I really like this. Don't let this galactic PETA find out about this restaurant. To be fair, I'm not sure if this is like intergalactic PETA per se. They cut up a Leviathan. That's pretty ridiculous. Like, these aren't like chattel. Like, they're sapient. It would literally be like Soylent Green kind of deal. But yeah, our top food critic reviews the restaurant that's all the rage. Then we have, what the fuck? The library is allowing animal cruelty? Down with Ambrose. The echoes and the hums are killing me. That is so funny. Appalled and frustrated, sentient beings in the library have enough problems as it is. Shouldn't have to worry about ending up on a plate. Just finished reading your review. I'm beyond disgusted. How did the chief archivist authorize this shit? And what do you have to say for yourself? Not them tagging people. This is messy and hilarious. A great question. Why don't we ask the wrong one himself? This is just so funny. Oh my god. They out here putting sentiments in the soup just for it to still taste like lukewarm sweat and okra. Okay. So I do have something to say. About this. This is so believable. This is very relatable. I feel like this would actually happen. Like, this is just great. What I will say is I do have feelings about people like this, like the Shay person. You can't just make comparisons to it tasting bad just because like you don't like it, right? Like, even if the person who is making the dish is like super shitty and it's not ethically sourced or whatever, like, it might still be delicious though. Like, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that condones it or makes it right, but like, we don't have to lie. That person probably didn't even go to the opening. They probably haven't even eaten there. You can't just say something is bad when you haven't actually tried it for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Just talk about all the other things. There are people who do this in real life. I have very strong feelings about this. You don't have to. I mean, some people like lukewarm. They're obviously using it in a derogatory fashion, but you are correct. So we're currently looking into the situation. Please remain calm as our investigation continues. We'll get back to you soon with an official statement. Hope you hang them by their toes. This is horrific on a genocidal scale. How could you do this in good faith? I am disgusted. This is just, oh my gosh. The gift that keeps on giving. I'm not surprised, mostly disappointed. We at the Reclamation Agency strongly disavow the use of living creatures for such purpose and strongly condemn Ambrose for their... the hashtag is killing me. This is just so believable. Given all of the drama that's been happening on Twitter lately, I'm loving this. Wait, are you telling me that Leviathans are actually sentient? I mean, it's not sentient, it's sapient. Sapient was the word they used, but someone using the wrong word is also very realistic. We sincerely apologize for the backlash that the food served at last night's opening caused in the Wanderers Library community. Rest assured, we have temporarily withdrawn the controversial items from our menu in favor of more appropriate cuisine sourced from vendors within the library. We are deeply sorry for the disapproval this is generating in the community and hope to see smiles again when our new menu comes in next week. Cheers and see you soon. Isn't this like just the corporate... We're not going to address how casually the servers just like mesmerized an octopus to like crawl down a woman's throat. That's crazy. You guys are seriously the worst. Oh man. Hilarious. Hilarious. Definitely cheers for whoever coded this and put this together. All right. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. This article seems to be pretty highly rated. A lot of people like this article. I also like this article. I like the meta articles that specifically talk about the library itself. So we know murder and war happened, but we're not gonna say anything about it. Yes, that is so true. All right. So that was quite a read. It took a little while to get through that one. Really quick, I'm gonna actually, I don't have to move it to do that. I'm gonna put the name of this story and the author into the list. Let me edit this really quick because I want to keep the reading list up to date. I probably should have put it in there before, actually. I did not. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Ambrose, Wanderers Library review. And this was by Din-Bidor. Is that a pun on Dumbledore? We've read stories by this person before. I just actually didn't realize it until just now. Also, oh no, I'm blocking it. Let me get my big ass head out of the way. Here we go. A bit better, a bit better. I really like that though. The meta pieces always get me. I have a weakness for them. Okay, I know that Shalakard said that they were interested in scary stories. I'm gonna try, we'll try. I've got a story here called It Sees Me. And I am actually going to put the title and the author there first. Can I find the author's name on the actual story page? I don't think so. Okay. I'm gonna actually keep up with this now, I promise. We'll put the author's names and stuff before we actually start reading. I feel like that's the best way to do it so we can keep track. And this is electronic. Is that underscore? Yeah, it is. Underscore bunny. Alrighty. So we'll read this. This seems a little creepy. So we'll visit the creepy side of things for a second. I am still full up on tea, so we're just gonna launch right in here. And then we might take a break after this one because it's it's not as long as the last one, but it's hefty enough. All right, here we go. It Sees Me. I felt my sanity slip away as I stared into that deep purple nebula. The ebb and flow of those gases in space were too tantalizing to look away from. I knew they were light years away, but I felt as if those clouds were shifting in front of me. It had been hours of me using this telescope. My body was beginning to grow weak. I needed to set coffee. That way I could return and monitor my new discovery for even longer. I could tell I was sleep deprived when I first pulled my eye away from the lens. Shadows twisted around and my eyes strained under the light change. I believed I was hallucinating at this point, that strange purple mist from the nebula cloud filling the corners of my observatory. I dismissed them for now, due to their fleeting beauty. I sat up from the telescope for what seemed like the first time in days. I stumbled towards a cupboard on my wall to take out some coffee and maybe some food. As I got there, though the shelf seemed oddly dusty, but I simply brushed that fact aside as I pulled down what I needed. As the coffee cooked, I realized those purple hallucinations were not fading. They continued to ebb and flow through the 2 windows and solitary door. They twisted and swirled as they danced around the room. A momentary flash of light, like a shooting star, would form in the mist as it was at its closest to me. When the pot finished, I brought it and a cup back to my telescope. As I sat down, an immense fear took me over, and I feared I would lose my new discovery. I had not yet recorded the coordinates or how to find this nebula again. What meaning would be left in my singular life if I had lost this enchanting sight? In my haste, I knocked over a lamp which stood nearby. I didn't care for it and went straight for the telescope lens. As I peered through once again, I witnessed its magnificence and splendor. I felt as if I could see even more details reflecting from those gases, and I studied every inch I could. I'm not sure how many hours again passed, but I never grew tired of staring into that purple abyss. As time passed, though, I felt something had changed. I began to see an aberration in the gases. The visible gases were all of a lighter shade, and occasionally in dense spots it would become darker. In those fantastical waves, though, there was something physical, something casting shadows or causing pressure changes. I had no idea what it could be, but I knew that further examination could only help the situation. So there I sat for another period of time, learning all I could from this distant prophet. I regained consciousness against the hard wooden floor of the observatory. I must have passed out while enraptured by my work. I needed sleep. This work was slowly killing my body, but something kept me going. It always felt as if I was on the edge of unraveling some great secret. I hadn't even thought about reporting these findings yet to the local astronomers society. To be honest, I can't remember leaving this single room since I had found that nebula, or how long ago that was. As I got up, the thick purple gas clouds clung to the ceiling and floor. Were these images real, or a result of the laborious and foolish concentration I had given the nebula? All of this was so wrong. Something was driving me to wear myself down slowly with this work, and I felt as if I couldn't escape its influence. I needed fresh air, and escape from this isolated cell. I started heading to the door, but as I did, the purple mist pushed through the cracks in the door, soon overwhelming that part of the room in a hazy cloud. I knew where the door was, though, and stormed forward blindly, feeling for the knob. I knew the door was only 5 feet ahead of me when I entered the massive gas cloud. I kept walking, expecting to feel a wall, but never finding one. After walking 30 to 50 feet forward, I began to panic. What fresh hell had I discovered? In my fear, I took a step back and tripped. I was hyperventilating now, but as I hit the ground, I fell just outside of the cloud. I thought I had walked a much farther distance, but it seems I never made it farther than a foot into the mist. I crawled back away from this nefarious illusion, but as I did, the mist continued to only grow and take up more of the observatory. The walls began to disappear behind the haze, and one by one, the room was being taken over and replaced by this unbreakable veil. Even by this point, the telescope and final window were overtaken, and I was left alone in the center of this miasma. I screamed as loud as I could for help and tried prying up the floorboards, but there was no reply, and I could no longer find a single seam for the boards beneath that purple haze. I came to the conclusion that this must simply be a nightmare. That recent exhaustion due to scientific study had rendered me ill. I decided to lay down and force myself to sleep, possibly ending this hellish nightmare. Surprisingly, it was not difficult to sleep, as my body had been weakened to an extreme level. As I drifted off, though, I felt the horrid mists only encapsulating me further. In that dream, I saw many things which I had never conceived possible, let alone knew about. I saw grand cities that towered above the sky, vast labyrinthian cave systems under the city I resided in, and a nearly indiscernible sensation I could not shake from my mind that at its furthest I would attempt to describe as the gnashing of millions of teeth. I awoke, or at least felt my own body again, back in the isolation of the purple mists. Voices began to pierce the veil, though, and whenever I heard one, I could perfectly envision who was speaking to me. I saw doctors, politicians, soldiers, even children as they spoke out from the infinite void. Thousands of voices overlapped and nearly simultaneously in their message. Have you seen, and now you are seen. I tried several more times to escape this prison, to run through the mists until I reached the other side, but I never found it. I always returned to the eye of the storm without knowing what to do next. Deep from that abyss, I heard something growing louder as it got closer. It was the sound of trumpets blaring, but deeply muffled, as if buried under a mile of dirt. It slowly rose in pitch and volume as these dreaded moments passed by. As it continues, I see massive shadows cast upon the nearby gas, encircling and surrounding me. The sound has now reached near deafening levels. It was no longer like instruments blaring, but now like sheets of metal grinding against each other. I fall to the ground weeping as this noise is accompanied with thoughts of duress and dread, mixed with images of those I knew in unspeakable conditions. I attempt to scream out with total abandon, but as I do, two things happen. Not only does the great deafening sound halt, but my own scream makes no noise. I realize in this moment of hysterical loss that I must scream, but I have no mouth. I sit there in silence, no longer able to weep, and something in the mist approaches. As the shape comes closer to me, it begins to take the outline of a person, even a familiar one at that. Something, I am not sure what, but something appearing as me emerges from those purple gases. The gases oddly continue to cling and twist to the creature's limbs. As that creature's eyes meet mine, I can see that they were only a deep, paralyzing shade of purple, drawing me in as heavily as the nebula. I want to beg for what little release from this horror I could have, but I cannot make any noise. I sit there, staring into the eyes of that creature for what seemed like eons. It made no motions, but simply stared back at me in silence. I don't know what happened, but eventually the entire scene faded away. I find myself on my knees in front of the telescope, a purple glare of light reflecting from the lens. The mists have completely vanished from the observatory, and the dust and wear on the room is also gone. Besides the telescope on the table sits a journal of mine. Its last entry reads, "Discovered a strange light source in the northeastern sky that seems to move rapidly across the sky." I will try to pinpoint the coordinates and see if I can find it on the telescope. I can barely remember a time before I stared deeply into that abyss, but it still seems to be the same day as that entry. I left and conversed with people around the town. They told me how I was a local astronomer and had called me a name I would not recognize. I returned to my home empty, nearly a shell of whoever I had been. I had people knock on my door later that night, asking about my condition, as reports had said I was raving in the streets earlier in the day about a great abyssal one. Worse yet, I don't remember when I left the house, or that I even mentioned that name. I don't know if I've gone insane or if any of this is real, but I know the truth is there in that lens. I'm writing down this experience and leaving it with other individuals who can accurately know what is happening. I have to go back, though. I have to look through that telescope just one more time. I have seen it, and it will always see me now. That was a lot. That was very intense. Shalakard, hopefully that was scary enough. I mean, it wasn't like gore or anything, but sheesh. Imagine suffering for years upon years upon years to the point where you've lived a whole other life, just like suffering in that state. You don't even know what else to do. That's very nuts. Very, very nuts. Okay. I am going to have you guys take a small break at this point. We're gonna, let's see. Do I even have any? I'm gonna go. I'm trying to figure out if I actually have music on my BRB screen. I don't think I do. So I'm gonna take a break for just like 1 second and refill my tea, and then we'll get back at it. There's like so many other stories to read. We've only been here for about an hour. I can go for another hour, probably. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We'll get through, it depends on how long the stories are, but we might be able to get through 3 or 4 more stories before the end of the night. So let's take a short break. Let me put, there we go. And instead of doing anything fancy with the BRB screen, I'll be back. I'm back again. Hey. That was a pretty short break. I literally just wanted to refill my tea. Keep this throat going. Because reading takes a bit out of you, you know? Okay. So looking at our list here, we're going to make it a little bigger. A little bigger so we can see everything here. So we looked at It Sees Me. We looked at the Ambrose Wanderer's Library review. We've got Pathway and Corridor. A Note to My Muse, which seems like it might be a little lovey-dovey. We've got Those Places Where Maps Cannot Touch. Throne of the Usurper. I read all of these off earlier, but I just want to make sure we're centered back on the list. It's been a little while. We also have on Sea Pigeon Stuck. We've got the Self-Portrait, songs about being transgender. We've got The Best of Friends, Chest Cavity, The Star. I think that's... Oh, the 81st Turn, 7th Year, 15th Cycle, Sky Day. I think this is from a series, actually. If there are any preferences, if anything jumps out at you guys as interesting, let me know. If not, I'm thinking I'll probably go for Elemental Typology. That's the one that I like the most. Let's see if I can Yeah, get it in a different window. Just to see how long it is. It actually is just like describing. Oh, it's an incomplete work too, so it's like basically a scrap of notes that someone jotted down and shoved into the pages of the library. So maybe not that one. Maybe not that one. I don't mind what you read. The ASMR is good enough for me. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. Let me... Because I don't preview these before we come here today. I actually just hit random and just read what's there. So let's take a look at some of these. We'll take a look at those places where maps cannot touch. And then I think we'll probably re-roll our list from here. I'm thinking that's probably what we'll do. We'll re-roll the list from here. Alrighty then. So since no one has a preference, that is what we're gonna go for. I'm gonna go for those places where maps cannot touch. So we'll put our list back down here. And then we'll cut the music and I'll get started again. Alrighty. Before I do that, I am reminding myself to update the reading list because I always forget. I always forget. The places where maps cannot touch, and that is by rumetzen, it seems. So let's give credit where it's due. Put that down here. Rumetzen. There we go. All right, without further ado, that is what we're reading. There is a I guess we'll call it like a little preamble. It's pretty short though. Preface maybe. These are the sacred places. The places we can be free. Though the jailer's sight feels infinite, nobody can see forever. These are their blind spots where we can finally live our lives without fear of being captured and imprisoned. The hidden places on the edge of worlds, the places where maps cannot touch. The first city to change was Orthrunda, and the first part of that was the Center Garden. A caretaker had woken up one day and found the wild vines and branches converted to smooth marble. The stone spread slowly in the beginning, creeping along the streets and alleys, ensnaring buildings, pets, and people. When the rest of the world took notice, the city had already been completely changed, and the stone was spreading beyond. The ruler's empire fell slowly but surely. Desreta, Iliut, Porsterix, each land was consumed and absorbed by the pox. All the magic and power at his disposal wasn't enough to stop his advance. It advanced without halt to every corner of his world, save for one. His castle remained untouched until now. Every one of his kingdoms has been destroyed. The marble is encircling his fortress. He cannot sleep because the sound of it cracking the earth. He cannot protect himself. He can only drink his wine and wait for the stone to come. On another earth, beneath the cities and garbage and pollution and violence and waste, God sleeps. Eventually, he will wake. One day he will emerge from the ground and purge the world of those who have corrupted its beauty. The sky will come alive and devour the steel that infects it. The oceans will overflow. Humanity will beg for forgiveness. Until then, he sleeps, But the sleep of God is not to be taken lightly. It warps and changes the world around it. The differences are minute, but they are there. A man walking to work goes down the same street endlessly. A blue jay sitting on a fence splits, amoeba-like, into two birds. And then those birds split until the entire fence and yards is covered with a chirping, multiplying blue swarm. Children come to school and find a dead angel teaching their class. A dog envisions a flying machine and its masters wait to discover it building an ornithopter. God turns over in his place of rest and continues to dream. Far beyond there is an ocean. Some would say it is the greatest ocean, vast and powerful and churning, so long ago having eroded any land in its path. Its depths are vast and uncharted. The horrors that lurk inside are known to the simple people who live on the surface in their floating boat cities. They live peaceful lives above the waves, farming the grass and plants that grow there and catching the animals unlucky enough to come near. One day, a shadow appears under the boat. The people are entranced by it. Many come to the edges of their boats to stare and wonder what great beast could create such a thing. It stays for many moons, following the boats as they drift through the sea. The novelty of it soon runs out, and the boat people resume their simple lives. And when they do, the shadow moves. It begins with a noise, a great howling noise like wind through a massive tunnel. The water rises. The boats are lifted up by the swell. A massive hand rushes up from the sea, grabbing them, then sinks back below the waves, taking the boat people with it. The ocean is still again. Oh, that's scary as shit. Oh my God. Imagine just a giant hand just comes up out of the water and grabs your boat. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know. I'm reminded of the giant hand from Super Smash Bros. All right, in we go again. We still got a bit left to go. 1,000 universes away, there exists a garden. Nobody knows how long it's existed, or if there was ever a point in time when it didn't. A few more people than nobody know that it exists at all. It floats through space, undisturbed and peaceful. A rocket approaches it. On that rocket is a man, the last survivor of a humanity that has destroyed itself. Like the garden, no one knows how long he has been floating through the emptiness, only that it has been a long, long time. It drifts slowly into the garden and lands between the flowers. A light goes on inside. A door opens inside. The man stumbles out. He takes in his surroundings with tired eyes. The beautiful blue and red and yellow flowers, the animals crawling through the foliage, the insects that hum through the air. He pushes his way through the bushes, the thorns that scratch against his face, steps over a thin brook bubbling and full of fish, and finds himself in a clearing. In the center of it is a tall, gray statue of a man. The statue is covered in moss and crawling animals, and as he looks upon it, he knows that he'll be happy here. Far away, so many miles that it would be impossible to measure, there is a great machine. It was built in the distant past by a race that has long since been destroyed by it for purposes that nobody remembers. The planet that it rests on is dead, existing only as fuel for its belly fire. It is being eroded slowly by the massive gears and scoops. Every day, a great claw will extend from the metal and take a large scoop of earth. No one knows what happens to the taken earth, and few want to, but at the end of the day, the great machine will shudder and emit a thick belch of smoke. Sometimes there will be other things. Once a man emerged from the machine. He took a few shaky steps onto the surface of the planet before collapsing, dead. Another time, a second, smaller machine flew out and disappeared into the sky. Most recently, a steel bird flapped out and now circles the machine, screaming. In many years, the planet will collapse. What the machine will do then, no one knows. Perhaps we'll find another world to fuel its existence. Perhaps it will collapse back into scrap. But until then, it will continue to consume Earth and spew smoke. In a distant time and place, there exists a theater. Once it was a lively place, attended by people from every corner of the world. Kings and queens, lords and merchants, criminals and beggars. The performances were spectacular, unmatched by those in any other theater that has ever or will ever exist. Many thought it would exist forever. Sadly, it did not. Now, the halls and stages are empty, home only to memories. The props are dusty and worn, the costumes are ripped, the lights are broken. A small round thing floats through the air. It whirs as it flies, powered by stray atoms it scoops from the air and converts to fuel. It is here to observe the lost theater. Who sent it? It cannot remember. And if it could remember, it probably wouldn't care. What matters is the data, pictures, measurements, and samples that it will collect. A noise from the right grabs its attention. Floating into the offending room, it sees something unexpected. A woman climbing into the broken stages. She stands motionless for a moment with her eyes closed. Then she looks straight at the machine. A smile comes to her lips. From a source the machine cannot identify, music starts to play. The woman holds her arms out in front of her, takes a step forward, and begins to dance. Close to all of these, and also very far away, exists a library. In the library, there is a man. The man is sitting at a desk with 2 books and a pen. One of them is small and full of words. The other is large and empty. He treats both with care as he turns through their pages. Every so often, he will lean in close to the small book, and then he will take his pen, dip it in the inkwell, and write a word in the large book. The word then disappears, absorbed into the pages, and he continues to read. Sometimes a patron will pass and ask what he's doing, but he'll ignore them. There's no reason to stop for fools. This is his life's work, and soon it will be complete. Soon. The world will know his name. And that is the end of that one. That is the places where maps cannot touch. So it's basically kind of like just actual descriptions of the places. They were very interesting. I like them a lot. I feel like the Wanderer's Library does a very good job. The people who contribute to the stories there do a really good job at, like I said earlier, folding in the multiverse concept into the stories that are there. It's very meta, very self-referential. I always like these kind of stories. Okay. Now, I said we were going to re-roll after this, and so we are. Let's refresh. All right, so now our list is a bit different. Let's see. I'm going to make it a bit bigger, just so you guys can follow along. We'll cover that up there, and then I'll shrink it down when I'm ready. So, we've got But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye. The Bibliovores might start that. It seems like people eating books. Very interesting to me. What sort of creature eats a book? I would like to know. Darling Ginny, Key to a New World. We've got another Dr. Everett Mann log, 81st turn, 7th year, 24th cycle, Crow Day. At some point, I'm actually going to read through a few of these and like start at the beginning, but I'll have to do like a whole stream that's just like dedicated specifically to these. So we have a selection of wayward prayers. That sounds very culturally interesting. We have the Dance of the Fair Folk. Oh, that might have something to do with Fae. That might interest me. We have the Rise and Fall of Moroidea. I might not be pronouncing that. I'm like very likely not pronouncing that right. We've got Noccalula. I like the ones with like ambiguous names because you can't tell what they are. We have A Cool Breeze's Comfort, Reverence, and Revulsion, and Walking Among the Tree Flowers, as well as Take Another Shot. I'm not sure if take another shot is like a drink shots, or if we're talking chances. It's probably chances. It's probably like take another chance with something, right? I feel like that's very likely what it is. Denko, hello, hello, hello. Yeah, that's crazy. I am super shocked that you were still subbed. That's crazy. You are so sweet. Thank you so much for staying subbed to me. I know I was on break for a while, but you're so sweet. Also, oh, your emotes. I love those. It's been 10 months. Also, Twitch didn't tell me you were live because Twitch hates me for real, but that's okay because you're great. I'm now gonna fall asleep right here in your chat. I hope you do. I hope everyone has a good time. If you're listening to the stories, I hope you're enjoying them. If you are falling asleep to the stories, I hope you are resting well. I will say, I've got the list. I'll be putting the list of the stories up on Twitter once I am done with the stream. I think you would, Denko, be super interested in the Ambrose Wanderers library. Also, I definitely misspelled that. That's... Nobody told me. Basically, the guy from the SEP universe that's known for having like really exotic restaurant wares, he opened up a restaurant in the library and someone reviewed it. It's a great meta piece. I think you would really enjoy it. Okay, so we have a lot of interesting stories here to choose from. I'll definitely give it a look and also go back and watch the VOD. That sounds super interesting. It was hilarious to read. It was written like a real review article, and I think that that's where it shines. So since you're here, I'm tempted to open up Reverence and Revulsion just because. Just because. And the author of that is Acam80 or Acam80. Let me open it up and see how long it is. It takes place in New Zealand. Interesting. Oh, this is a very, very long piece. This is a very, very long piece. I feel like this is something we could just... Did I just see kaiju flash? I sure did just see the word kaiju flash here. Okay. Okay, so this is too long for us to read tonight. Why is there a reference to Amontillado? Okay, all right. So this is crazy and interesting. And what I'm actually going to do is keep this bookmarked for later. I'll have to do like a separate recording where we take a look at that because that definitely sounds cool. Okay. So let's look at a couple of these other ones. We have But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye, which seems like it might be fairly emotional. Definitely pass that one over now. I need to know. Let me actually put the link, because I can definitely link it in here. That's not a problem. That way you don't lose it. I don't lose it. We've got a reference. Okay. But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye is the appropriate length, so we can look at that. Noccalula, I also want to look at and see how long it is. Basically, I'm trying to, not that we can't read something that's long, but I try not to read anything that's too long unless I'm going to dedicate a whole, like stream or something like that to it, just because when people come in, I want them to actually be able to grasp something from the beginning, like that sort of thing. If it takes me 45 minutes to an hour to read one piece, it's not bad. But when people come in there, or if they're not watching the VOD, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, what is this? Okay. I am looking at Noccalula, and I might decide to go with that one. we're gonna look at Dance of the Fae Folk. I'm a little partial to that, being a Fae myself, you know. Is this literally about Fae Folk? It sure is. All right, I'm gonna read this one and then we'll check on some of the other ones. That's how we'll do it. I've also got Noccalula up, and I have the other one, But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye, up as well. So we will visit those in a moment. All right, so Dance of the Fair Folk. And Dance of the Fair Folk is by EldritchAule. So let's add that to the reading list and then I'll get started. I've been doing a surprisingly good job at keeping up with these. Dance. Oh, whoops, nope. All right. Dance of the Fair Folk. And then, whoops. All right, we've got EldritchAule. Here we go. And I missed a space. Let's fix it. All right, there we go. So without further ado, here is Dance of the Fair Folk. Oh, you know what I probably should do? Should start putting all of these in the chat. I'm not really sure why I didn't think to do that. I'll put currently reading and then we'll do the link here. There we go. I'll start doing that when I'm doing these streams. I'll like link to it in case people want to follow along. All right, here we go. There's a little bit of a forward. There you go. That's the word for it. Throughout the west city of Oprad, many tales exist of the elusive Fae folk or fair folk. Of the many subspecies of Fae folk, the most commonly encountered are predatory daemons that are able to inhabit both the physical and spiritual plane, manifesting themselves as pointy-eared women with green skin. They feed on the souls of mortals, whom they kill with spells and enchantments. Although considered by many an ixlamka to be the inventions of lunatics and worried mothers attempting to keep their children from wandering too far into the forest, those such as myself who have encountered the fair folk know very well just how real they are in this world. Dr. Spencer Black, in his book Ixlamsian Creatures, Spirits, and Folklore. Yes, this seems to be not this earth. This seems to be a different spot. Fae exist everywhere, you know. They take all kind of different forms too. I know I'm gonna enjoy this. All right, here we go. The people in my town love to throw celebrations, events I deeply despise. Foolishly, they allow their voices to flow and their bodies to flail. I sit on my porch, my brow lowering as I dwell on memories of the events that made me the man I am today. That night has taught me much more than what they've experienced. They do not know the consequences of such carelessness. I was like them as a young man. I loved to dance and to sing, and to venture off into the forest long after the sun had taken her rest beyond the mountains. Those were the days when I did not know the dangers the world had to offer. The night it happened was a night like any other. I carelessly danced through the pathless forest. The sun's nighttime sisters and brothers gently illuminated my way deeper into the woodlands. Suddenly, a rustling caught my attention. Turning my head to the noise, I encountered a form sticking out from a bush. The form appeared to be human, though their features were unclear with the lack of light. "Excuse me," I said, approaching the person. She jumped and then turned around, revealing herself to be a young girl. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" the girl inquired, her eyes widening. Before I could answer, she had jumped up and grabbed my face with her hand, examining it. Her hair was full of twigs, and her skin had the texture of the bark of a birch tree. Oh, no. Yeah, well, you sure did that, didn't you? "You're human," she exclaimed after a few seconds. "Knock it off," I said, shoving her hand away from my face. "And who are you?" "Why are you out here?" the girl asked, ignoring me. "No one, especially a human, should be alone out here. Do you have a death wish?" I shot her questions right back at her. "Well, why are you here all alone? You don't seem to have anyone with you." I'm not. I have the trees, she answered. I looked at her confused, then my eyes widened with realization. Are you a nymph? A spirit of the forest? That is none of your concern. Now get out of here. Run back to wherever human community you come from. I don't need another mortal soul to get eaten. Well, hold on, I began, but the she spirit began to push me back in the opposite direction. Now, she yelled. I turned around to confront her again, but she was gone. A small pile of leaves floated away from where she once stood. If I knew what I know now, I would have heeded her warning. But the foolish boy I was went to the bush where the nymph had been peering through. As I looked, I saw nothing but an empty clearing. But as I stood up to turn away, a faint sound of laughter began to emanate from the same direction. Returning to the bush, I now saw a group of women celebrating around a bonfire. However, these were no ordinary creatures. Their skin was tinted green, and they all wore white dresses and flower crowns. Some played instruments, others sang, but most danced. Among their midst was a couple of halflings who were also enjoying the activities. I climbed my way through the bush, where one of the women saw me entering, and came over. A dead king. She's the Lorax. Yes. A very dangerous Lorax, apparently. Welcome, young one. We were wondering when you were going to join us. Come along. Mindlessly, I obliged. There, I ate their food and sang their songs. Hang on. I gotta take a break. Okay, listen. As a fae myself, what I will tell you is that it doesn't actually matter what universe you're in, ever. Don't accept food without reaching an agreement about it first. Don't give anyone anything, not a name, not a purpose. Just go about your way. I feel like he got the warning and did not heed the warning. And this is not going to turn out well for him. I know it's not going to turn out well for him. But it is what it is. I'm going to try not to interrupt this. I'm very sensitive to this topic, being a fan myself. Just saying. Anyway. There I ate their food and sang their songs. I didn't care what these women were doing in the forest or why their ears were more pointed than those of the elves. I was enchanted and I joined in their bonfire dance. They encouraged me and the halflings for hours to dance faster and longer over time. The hours began to merge and my feet grew tired. I was ready to rest, to perhaps head home before the sun peeked her head over the horizon. Yet when I turned to leave, my body continued to dance. I could not stop no matter how hard I tried. I attempted to say something, to yell out, but to no avail. We danced and danced and danced. The sun had risen and set, yet the halflings and I were forced to continue dancing for hours. The hours turned into days, and I begun to grow thirsty and pale. But my body, trapped under the enchantment, was forced to continue laughing and dancing around the fire. Despite my lack of nourishment, my body did not falter in its continual rhythmic movements. Suddenly, one of the halflings collapsed, and the green women crowded around him. They did not touch his flesh, but his form began to shrivel and decay as the green ones cried out in ecstasy. Tears began to stream down the other halfling's cheeks, though his face was still stuck in an unnatural smile. For days, we continued to dance around the rotting corpse of the halfling. It smelled unbearable. I cannot recall when the other halfling collapsed, but he too followed in the unfortunate fate of his friend. It had been weeks when I finally collapsed. The green creatures began to crowd around me like ravenous animals, determined to feast upon my soul. Suddenly, a rustling came from behind, and a voice cried out, "You fae folk are not welcome in these woods, and I will not allow you to take another mortal spirit." With that, the sounds of the trees creaking erupted as their roots moved through the ground, surrounding and attacking the fair folk. I don't know what the trees did, what fate the fae folk met, but their screams silenced shortly after. I heard the sounds of approaching footsteps, and the nymph from before revealed herself. "Foolish human, did I not warn you?" she chastised. "You are lucky I pity mortals. The trees will take you back to your village." As the trees came close, I closed my eyes and all faded to darkness. When I awoke, I lay in a bed. Many of my fellow villagers crowded around my bedside, and they asked what had happened to me and where I had been. How was I able to make it back to the village unconscious and on the brink of death? I tried to tell them what had happened, the horrible events that had transpired, but I could not. My tongue would not let me. It felt as if my tongue had been constricted, my mouth physically not allowed to form the correct explanation. When I tried, I simply let out incomprehensible sounds or was simply silent. Decades later, I sit on my porch, silent, distraught, unable to tell anyone why I have come to loathe singing and dancing, why it is no longer appealing in my eyes. Even now, as I look into the fire, my people dance around, I can still see the Fae folk. I can see them tempting the townsfolk, consuming their souls, leaving them as rotting piles of flesh, and taunting me with their singing and their spells. So that's that one. I have feelings about this. I feel like, listen, if you give a mortal a warning and they do the thing anyway, I'm not saying he deserved what he got. I'm just saying that that's what happened. I don't see why the Fae should be punished because he didn't follow the rules. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is I think it is what it is. In turn, those Fae maybe should have quit when they were ahead after the second halfling collapse. I feel like they got a little greedy, you know. Yeah, I feel like you can't just take up residence in somebody else's forest and like start hunting there. That's like a whole separate thing, territories and whatever. But like, I'm just saying, this man got the advice to not be in there. And what did he do? He went right back in there. That's crazy. The nymph totally was like, hey, I'll do you a solid. I'll tell you it's dangerous in here. Don't be here. Go home. And he said, nope. So I'm just saying the circle of life is a natural thing. If you're in the position to be prey, then like, it would be different if we were talking about something unnatural. But like the consumption of souls and identities, I don't know what type of Fae these particular ones are, but it seems like they were eating, dining, having a fine time, consuming the souls. I just feel like they should have just been left to do what they were doing. They didn't ask him to come. He showed up. That's all I'm saying. Circle of life with Fae. Listen, what do you want them to do? He came into the forest while they were having a party. And they were hungry, apparently. That's all I'm saying. Alrighty. It is almost 2 a.m. I'm going to pick 2 more stories and then we will call it a night for tonight because I said this was going to be short. So we've got, but quick to tell me goodbye. And then we also have Noccalula. There's a couple of other titles that I'm interested in. Bibliovore sounds interesting. Take Another Shot also sounds interesting. A Selection of Wayward Prayers also sounds interesting. I don't have enough time tonight for all of the things that sound interesting, unfortunately. So let me open up the Take Another Shot and see what it's looking like. It's looking very short and sweet. So I think we can pass that one up. If I come across it again on a different stream, then we'll read that one. So let's see. We've got Walking Among the Tree Flowers. This one is also looking very short and sweet. I'm thinking we're gonna do Quick to Tell Me Goodbye and then Noccalula, probably, more than likely. And then we'll call it a day. Oh, you know what? I didn't look at the rise and fall of the... I'm not sure if it's the Murardea, like raw as in like French, or if it's Moroi. Moroi Dea sounds like it's a little more, it's a little more short and sweet. Yeah, this is another short. Okay. All right. I think we're going to stick with But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye and the, Noccalula. It could also be, no, I think it's Noccalula. I think that's how you pronounce that, maybe. Let's start with But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye. I'm going to update my reading list. Let's do that real quick. But Quick to Tell Me Goodbye. And then this is by Everhue. And I will also put the link to it in the chat as well. Oh, not me grabbing the wrong thing. Sheesh. All right, here we go. Currently reading there we go. Alrighty. Starting from the top. A girl stands there in what should be the moonlight. If you look straight up, not tilting your head at all, you can imagine the two of you are evenly spaced in a field. The infinite shelves of books are far apart here, and they curl upwards in spirals. The ceiling fades into clouds, not entirely covering the pinpricks of light. They shine through the gray wisps and constellations that don't match any of the skies of any world you've wandered through. She's seen this sky before, though. There's a familiarity to how she walks this floor. The wind tastes of the wild, of earth and blood. The way is open, and the foreign air dances through, twisting her midnight black hair into patterns like ink in water. You don't stop to breathe it in, but it floods into every inch of you anyway. You feel her destination in your fingers, know her reckless intent by the sickening sweetness of the flowers. The breeze carries the chime laugh of fairies. "Hey," you call out, before you grab a hold of the back of her gown with your unearthly strength. "Allison, stop. That's not my name right now. It's your name to me. It always will be." "Let go," she orders, like she expects to be obeyed. There's power in her pitch, but you don't follow the command. "So you can go gallivanting off on another suicidally stupid mission?" She tears herself out of your grip, fabric ripping beneath your nails, but mending. A simple charm, a waste of magic to keep clean, pristine. You bare your teeth at her, growling with an ancient power in your throat. "That isn't any of your business," she insists. "Why? Because you know I'd stop you before you got this far?" You snarl, bitter, with your hand tight. Your heart pounds too fast against your chest. "No. You think I get hurt? I can take care of myself. I've been taking care of myself ever since you broke things off, if you haven't noticed." "No." "Is it because I'm reckless? Because I'll piss off your precious contacts? Push them over the edge, make them fuck you up as badly as you fucked up your long list of enemies? That's gonna happen anyway, you know." She doesn't say no for a third time. "Whatever it is, just tell me, or face me and tell me no then. You won't even fucking look me in the eyes. You won't even say my name, Allison." She doesn't look at you when she answers. "You're right. It is dangerous. That's why you can't come." The lack of a real answer makes you want to take that swing even more, but you hold yourself back. It takes every inch of restraint that you don't have. "Is this the pity thing again?" you demand. You always have to phrase it like that, reducing complicated feelings down to a simple thing. "It is, isn't it? You saved my life. You think I'd be just fine as a fool? You think I'd rather live in ignorance than in this bullshit? You're as bad as the rest of the pseudoscientific, condescending piece of shit bastards out there. You spit out the words. She doesn't react to that. Like she doesn't even care. Like being compared to the people she hates the most doesn't make her blood run cold. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe in these months apart, I actually think, oh yeah, okay, there's like a typo here. You've loved her before, and for some time, she might have even loved you too. You made her feel human. At least until you got stronger. Until you were her equal in any sort of power. Until she couldn't ignore your relevance to her big, grand fucking destiny. You didn't negotiate for your power from Eldritch forces with carefully worded contracts. Didn't spend months researching and reading. You didn't build up layers of protections over a course of years. You seized your strength with your own hands, bent this fucked up reality to your will. Of course there were consequences to that rash choice. This is magic. It scars those it touches, inevitably and irrevocably. Her rules and regulations will only protect her for so long. You've long since figured that the only way to survive in this world was to ditch this belief in normal. The binary between human and monster is as bullshit as the one between male and female, good and evil. But she didn't dedicate her life to exposing the truth of the world and bringing down groups like the Foundation because she saw through their lies about the separation between the dark and the light. She's fighting because she thinks showing everyone what truly works in the shadows will make it less scary, make it easier to explain. You were happy. You were safe. I was powerless and ignorant, and I would have thought you of all people would know that nobody is safe. At least this way, I'm strong. You flex your powers, feeling the wind in your shot green hair, and your eyes shine golden. You're not human. Not anymore. You say it like it's a bad thing. I should have never kissed you. She's as silent as you are loud. Sad, disappointed, angry. You can't read her. Not with the red that she's blotting out your vision, pounding in your chest. Not with the rage that's choking you. You dig your nails into your leg, drawing blood. If you remember, I was the one who kissed you. You just reciprocated, and you don't get to act like it doesn't fucking matter, because it obviously does. I don't want to be pitied. I'm not going to be another fucking reason you hate yourself. She doesn't answer you. You need to scream louder. You need to hit her, even though you know she's stronger. She's got a destiny, and you're just an everyday self-made monster. Look at me. She refuses to turn. You feel bile in your throat, threatening to rise up and burn her. You want to let it so badly. You've taken what you've wanted ever since she freed you from your naive understanding of the world, and yet she's out of your reach. Look at me. You wait a second before you say it a third time. And in that time, she takes a breath. She addresses you by name. Quetzal, I don't pity you. I don't hate myself, is what she doesn't say. Bullshit, you respond, spit flying from between your lips. I see you. She turns around at last. Her fists are clenched and shake violently, but her eyes are cold. Her black hair frames the hardened expression, and the light of this library hallway reflects off her silver crown, off of the black onyx in its center. When she stands like this, she isn't the vulnerable girl plagued by impossible choices. She's a queen, and like every royal before her, she sees too far, too big a scale for the little monsters like you. It's her choices that decide the fate of millions, but she's unblemished, human to a fault. You feel rather than see the gun strapped to her thigh and the knives in her heels. Her magical defenses are laced into her bone and dress alike, but her body is still delicate. No scars, not like you. Your body heals wrong, and you're fine with it. You chose that. All her wounds are healed without a trace. You want to mark her up, drag your nails against that flesh, and press your lips against her neck so hard that she bleeds. You don't know anything about me. She's beautiful when she's cold. She strips you bare even as she lies. She doesn't leave you with anything. Not your ignorance, not your humanity, not your dignity. You'd still rather leave all of that behind, drag it through the mud, than live in a world without her. Without any of her. Damn it. You feel the tears running down your cheeks, even as blood runs down your leg. A war rages inside your chest and you can't inhale. Not the ragged winds of the wild, not the layered magical storm of the library's air. You're not burdened with destiny like she is. There's no allegiance of other selves tearing you away from your home. No tangled web of string as red as blood. No quest. Just you and the people claimed for your pack. There's no nobility in your violence, and you're fine with it. God fucking damn it, you're fine with it. That was like, oh, very palpable. That's quite a lot. So there is a attached SCP article to this. There was a link when they, whoever this is in the story called them Allison. So apparently they're a prominent figure from the SCP universe. I've read lots of different articles, but I haven't like scratched the surface. I can't even say I've read like a sizable portion of them, so I don't recognize this character. But I do want to read this. The letter. Apparently there is a hub for the Black Queen. They are a group of interest, a GOI. So there's stories. There's quite a few stories from the SCP Foundation. There's field notes that have to do with this group. There's several SCPs. I'm wondering which ones they are. There's a JP article. That's crazy. I'm just perusing through this really quick. I know I said I was only going to pick 2 more, but this is like crazy. Lots of redacted stuff. There's no, I don't think there's a nickname for, so the list of SCPs starts with 8410. It doesn't give like a name or anything. 8410. I'll read the descriptions of some of these just so that we can get like a better idea. So, SCP-8410 is a 12-year-old humanoid male. He possesses no outwardly apparent anomalous properties. However, for several years prior to Incident 40CK, so that's referencing probably one of the stories, this person experienced nightly paracognitive dreams seemingly set in a fictionalized version of Northern Asia, circa the 1700s BCE. Although these dreams were not reliably accurate in their depiction of the region, they contained a significant amount of classified information regarding anomalous elements that were active at the time. SCP-8410 denies accessing classified information regarding the period and claims to have never witnessed any anomalous phenomena prior to its first encounter with the Wanderer's Library, which occurred several years after these dreams began. So, interesting. I think this links to SCP-140, which is like a book about the Davites, which is like a really big separate thing. The SCP Foundation has like so many extra things. Some of these, there's an incident report that has like audio files here. I'm interested in the JP file. So this is an international branch. Okay. This is an international branch. And, oh, it looks like JP means something else. This is the Manhattan Crisis Hub. Interesting. Okay, so basically, there is a really big, like, interconnected series of articles that goes with this. And just looking at the Black Queen hub, there's quite a few stuff that has to do with this. So I'm not going to read everything that has to do with this. This feels very big. So what I will do instead, just because this is like a very big web of things, I'm going to read the letter that is dated September 20th, 2011, that was addressed to oh, this is interesting. Okay. So this says, to Allison Chow. So this is a letter to Allison. Interesting. Known to her world as the Black Queen. So let's read through this really quick. I hope this letter finds you well. I want to apologize for our behavior the other day. Although you're a strong person, discovering your true nature, as well as that of the serpent's hand, can be disorienting. It's been so long since I was first introduced to the other little sisters, I've forgotten what it's like. Feeling helpless is never a pleasant situation, especially when you're used to the feeling of being 5 steps ahead of everyone else in your world. Lashing out in the way you did was understandable, if unfortunate. I hope that you will find it in yourself to rejoin us in the library at some point in the future. Hopefully, this letter will help with some of the questions that were supposed to be answered at the library. First, there's always a Gears. He always leaves his wife for some extra normal organization. He always loses his capacity to feel. Sometimes this can be fixed, sometimes it can't. Sometimes Gears will get caught up in something that ultimately destroys his universe. Second, this Gears will frequently have a daughter. She is always shaped by his leaving. After a certain number of years, she begins to seek out her father. Sometimes she becomes a monster, human only in the loosest sense. Other times, she retains something of a conscience. Sometimes she succeeds and rescues her father only to find him a broken shell. Other times, she saves him and rebuilds her family as it once was. Many times, she remains as an utterly unremarkable, if damaged, woman. Other times, she dies before she can even lay down her plans, and sometimes, very few times, she learns about the library. Knowing that your circumstances are not unique, that your suffering is just one iteration of an infinite amount of identical suffering, or that the control you thought you had is non-existent, isn't pleasant to hear. Don't despair. Your influence over the worlds, not worlds, is far greater than you could ever know. Some of the daughters have limited themselves to their own worlds, using the library as a safe house and resource. Others have walked the ways, seeking out ancient and obscure worlds. Some ignore Gears, others obsessively seek him out. A few have decided that all of this convergence is the work of a god or gods. Sometimes people come into conflict. To call it a group is probably too charitable, more like a collection of individuals with similar experiences. Whatever ultimately becomes of your plans, I hope that you will try to find us again. You're scared and confused and probably angry. At one point I was too, but we know you better than anyone else can. If you choose to stay, there's no limit to what we can do. Your little sister, Allison Chow Epsilon, also known to her world as the Black Queen. So I guess it's like a group of associated people who are just different versions of the same people. That's very interesting. The SCP Foundation definitely has stuff like this. Let's see. There's the Dreamer's Archive, which is related to this. There's Mouthful of White Lies related to this. So it looks like oh, there's like a sequence. Okay, so this was like second to last of a story in a sequence, the one that we read, but quick to tell me goodbye. So this is super interesting. I am going to put the link to the hub about Allison and her adventures into the chat in case anyone is interested. So the hub starts with this letter, but there's also different tabs for field notes, collaborations, stories, documents, and there is actually an overview. We can look at the overview. So there's the link to the hub. Who is the Black Queen? It says, Gears' daughter. Years ago, when she was very young, her father abandoned her and her mother. No note, no packed suitcase, no nothing. Just there 1 minute, gone the next. Her mother promptly fell apart, leaving Allison largely to fend for herself. Over the years, she became fixated on the idea of finding her father. Through whatever means necessary, she will find her father and bring to account those who stole her family from her. So then it says, it gives you, there's basically a list of who she is, what the point is, and then there's some articles. This is very short, so I'm going to go ahead and spend a couple seconds reading this, just because I think that that's super interesting, just in case you want like the TLDR. If you do not want the TLDR, you want to, like read this yourself, the link is there. You can peace out for a second while I read this and come back. It shouldn't take more than maybe 2 minutes to read this. It's fairly short. So it says here, this is simply the general framework for the Black Queens. There are hundreds of Black Queens scattered across thousands of universes. Most never become aware of the existence of other queens and simply do their own thing in their own universe, or die, or remain normal, or whatever. However, a precious few discover this, and they mean like discover that there are lots of them. What does the Black Queen want? To destroy the Foundation, to rebuild her family, to punish those responsible for all the suffering caused to her and her mother. At least that's what she usually wants initially. Sometimes she wants to wander the ways. Others, she seeks to rule the world with an iron fist. Black Queens rarely interfere with one another unless their goals are in direct opposition. So I assume that this means that the Foundation took her dad, or he got mixed up in something kind of thing, probably. All right. Where is the Black Queen? It says, the nexus of all the universes, the library contains all information ever recorded. It is the meeting place of the Serpent's Hand. It is also the central gathering point for the Black Queens. While in the library, the queens refer to one another and themselves as Little Sisters, or LS. It's giving me, what is it, Bioshock vibes. All right. Not coincidentally, the past few years have seen the rise of a shadowy figure known only as LS among the Serpent's Hand. It's amazing what one can do when no one knows who you are. And there, that is a link to what is 278 again? I don't remember. I see. Okay. It's like a item that makes it hard for people to recognize you, I think, maybe. Something. I'm not going to read the article. I just was curious. All right, here we go. Back in. The Black Queens use the Serpent's Hand primarily as a listening post, but may also try to spur the group to direct action in service of their goals. So, who is Dr. Gears? Dr. Gears is, depending on the universe, a robot, an emotionally dead man, an anomalous artifact, or something else entirely. Whenever he is, Gears always plays a pivotal role in the world of the anomalous in whatever universe he's in. Black Queens will frequently go out of their way to preserve the life of a Gears, even though some may seek to destroy dangerous iterations of him. It says here the Black Queen is Gears' daughter, though. Where are the Black Queen's secrets? It says in multiversal catalogs. Whenever a particular instance of an object is encountered in a different world, it is noted. Often, iterations of the Black Queen with a great deal of knowledge on or interest in the object will annotate the catalog to provide greater insight through updates, questions, comments, as well as logs of heists and visual information. Alrighty, so that's interesting. That is interesting. So that's the summary of what it is, I suppose. Groups of the same iterations of a lady trying to find her dad, I guess. And she basically just I guess, like, I assume that what they mean by the Gears thing is that maybe he's affected by something that happens at the SCP Foundation and he gets turned into an anomalous object or something like that. And Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So let's see if we can read that last story. We're going to close this out with Noccalula. My brain wants to say Noccalula, but the two C's are really doing it for me. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong no matter what, but I'm doing my best. Okay. The last story of the evening is, I guess, Noccalula. Noccalula. Not sure exactly how to pronounce that. And this is by Akam80. Akam80. Not sure exactly how to pronounce it either. So let's put this in here. Bada bing, bada boom. And we're gonna finish this up. Call it a night. And this isn't a super long article at all, so perfect to end on, I think, personally. Okay. So here we go. Speak to someone from Gadsden, Alabama. Talk kindly to them, and most likely they'll speak kindly in turn. Don't get stressed worrying if it's just Southern hospitality or genuine kindness. It ultimately doesn't matter. Once you've gained some momentum in the conversation, ask them about the best places around Gadsden to hike, where the nature is especially beautiful. If they get squirrely, start thinking too hard, narrow it down for them and ask for somewhere with a river, where the water flows as fast as it chases the days gone by, and then also suddenly, slowly, once it finds them, only to pick up again as they slip from its grasp once more. A Southern tragedy rooted deeply in the land, found in literature as their authors had been weaned on the clay. Remnants of days past, built in postbellum blues, shoved away into carpet bags, left behind to rot on the banks of creeks and streams until the fabric lets loose its prisoners, diffusing into the mud. If they still don't give you a straight answer, unravel the final knot with a blade, cheating to the conclusion. Waterfall. Will they tell you of Black Creek Falls? No, not exactly. They'll tell you about Noccalula Falls. Noccalula Falls is Black Creek Falls, but the Black Creek Falls isn't Noccalula Falls. Black Creek Falls has history, one long forgotten, eclipsed by the history of Noccalula Falls. The famed tale of the infamously beautiful Cherokee princess. Noccalula, oh no. I know I'm definitely mispronouncing it, especially this is a Native American name. The Native American who was married off by her father, the chief, to a suitor from another tribe in order to garner peaceful relations. Noccalula, the heartbroken, in love with a man from her tribe, and dismayed that she not only was being forced to marry a man she didn't love, but had also been betrayed by her own father. Noccalula, the desperate soul who leapt off the 100-foot waterfall to her death, evading a life of misery apart from her lover, apart in the most cruel of fashions, alive and well. 9 feet tall, bronze and captured in a moment of sorrow and desperation, standing at the edge, beginning her leap forward, gazing down at the frothing waters below. Never leaving the ground, destined to hang on the precipice before that sense of weightlessness that would herald a cold crashdown. I'd seen the statue many times in my life, heard the story even more. Something about a tragic tale told to you from an early age over and over again makes it so much less that it truly is, ingrains it in your head before you could ever question it with the sound mind of maturity. So I was never bothered by it. I never thought twice. Ride the little train around parts of the park on Christmas. Hear the tale of Noccalula while staring wide-eyed at the trees that shimmer with lights mimicking snowfall that you'd be hard-pressed to see them covered with naturally. The mechanical Santas that wave, reindeer that dip their heads like the bovine do as you drive down back roads past vast pastures that somehow feel cramped. Either that or horses. Pick your poison. Walk through the petting zoo. Get your fortune told by a mechanical Indian princess for 50 cents. Buy some rock candy from the gift shop while you're there. Mini golf, the Fat Man Squeeze, the botanical garden, the campground, the hiking trails, the path underneath the waterfall, the river, and the streams, and the creeks. Look up at Noccalula leaping to her death. She's not a woman. She's just another attraction. I worked for the local public library during the summers, still under the assumption that I wanted to be a librarian. I spent my last summer there scanning old newspapers and documents into a digital system. What we kept locked behind a cage on a dark and cluttered floor, barred from patrons, was to be digitized for posterity's sake. Newspaper clips after pictures, after documents, formal and otherwise, after articles, after old history, until one caught my eye, one detailing a look into Noccalula and her tragic tale. The consensus was clear and definite. Complete fabrication. Not only that, but it was a story created to attract tourists to Gadsden. Can you really blame a town with as little to offer as Gadsden for creating such a myth? For creating its own Helen? Its own Juliet? That very same library I worked at had a costume in a display case. It was meant to mimic a Cherokee dress, meant to denote royalty, but looked more like what you see in an old cartoon or a cheap Halloween store. The costume had been worn by the woman who posed for the artist as the statue was made. I'm sure there's some subtle irony to be found in that her sister-in-law posed for the Emma Sampson statue that also stands in Gadsden, a memorial for a woman who guided Confederate soldiers across the Black Creek River so that they could fight Union soldiers. She points evermore. The dress was a real piece of the town's history, one much more real than the woman it supposedly honored. I never took notice of it until I read that article. So there she stands, and forever will stand, teetering on the edge, an endless purgatory of anticipation, the moment before the world goes silent and the water falling off of the cliff seems almost still as she follows it down. But Noccalula will never land. She'll never break her spine on that concrete fluid, collapse her rib cage, her bronze blood rushing down the Black Creek as the metal degrades away like sugar in the pure catalyst of relief. No resolution, no ending for her wretched heart. But if she collapses, does she fall whole or does she break off at the ankle, leaving traces of herself behind? Of these two, which is better? Which is more realistic? Why care? A metal heart pumps no blood, moves no oxygen, feels nothing. Call it symbology, call it empathy, call it mania. To tip over the edge is to move on, to leave behind the heartaches of yesterday and today. Maybe, just maybe, I'll one day leave the past behind me. There is actually a photo here of the actual statue. Let's see. I think I can probably put it up. Give me just 1 second. Let's see. I'm gonna try to fit it to the screen so it's not so jarring when I put it up, right? Like, all right, here we go. So this is the Noccalula statue. I'm not sure if this is like a real statue or not. I would actually have to like look it up. Hello. You're actually at the end of our reading time. That's an interesting image. I wonder if somebody actually made this. The caption says, maybe, just maybe one day, Noccalula will one day hit the water. Very interesting. Just to introduce myself really quickly, even though we're about to be done for the day. I'm Luminous Peak. I'm your friendly neighborhood fae. And this was a bedtime story stream, as you could tell from the title. And we read these selections up here from the Wanderer's Library. There's a couple of links in the chat that you might be able to see in case you've never heard of the Wanderer's Library. It's basically a sister site to the SCP site. So they have cool stories and stuff on there. I'll put that today thing in there. You can see that link below. But all right, we knocked out quite a few stories for today. I feel really good about the amount we were able to do in 2 hours. Hopefully you guys are either sleeping or you found that the story's very interesting. We didn't get a whole lot of scary or dark stories this time. Usually when I hit the random button on the site, we get some very dark tales. I am remembering some of the sadder stories from previous reading histories. By the way, if you are interested in listening to other readings, other story time streams, because I try not to read the same things twice, you can check out my YouTube. There is a link to those things in my about page. There's like a click here to see everywhere you can find me sort of thing. And I think my YouTube command works. Oh, maybe, is it like YT? I don't know. We'll have to, yep, there we go. It's YT. So yep, you can check out the VODs there if you just need something to continue to listen to before you go to sleep. But since we got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories today, and this was a pretty good for a short stream, I think, we're gonna call it a day. Thanks for tuning in with me. I hope that you were able to enjoy the adventures that we went on today. I think this is my last stream for the week, but we'll be back next week. If we want more bedtime stories, I might do another bedtime story stream next week. Other than that, I've got a couple of keyboard builds coming up because that's my usual content. I build mechanical keyboards. And other than that, I might start a new game next week. So thanks to anyone who's hung in so far. If you're at work or just trying to get to sleep, I appreciate that you guys are spending time with me while I plunder these depths and find interesting tales. So I hope you sleep well if you're sleeping. Have a good day if you're not sleeping and you're on the other side of the world from where I am. And that you have a nice end of your weekend. And I'll see you guys next week, okay? Bye-bye.